Okay, so I'm going to try to teach you the quickest way to write down the unit circle. So the first thing you want to do is make a giant circle. The bigger the better. I want you to fill the entire page with the circle. Draw your x and y axes, right? And you want to know why it's called the unit circle. It's called the unit circle because the radius is 1. That's going to be very helpful to know. Because basically we know the origin is at 0, 0. So if the radius is 1, then what are the coordinates here? It's going to be 1, comma 0, right? Coordinates here, 0, comma 1. Here, negative 1, comma 0. Here, 0, comma negative 1. And we get all that based on the radius being 1. That's easy, right? Very simple. So you're also going to have to remember that a circle has 360 degrees, right? But you also need to remember you start on the positive x-axis, and going counterclockwise is actually positive angles, and going clockwise is actually negative angles, right? So we'll start with the positive, right? So going this way is positive. So this would be positive, this would be 0 degrees here. So if I go around 360, then I end up in the same place. We'll call that coterminal, right? So 0 degrees is the same as 360 degrees. It's the same location right here, okay? So what's half of 360? Half of 360 is 180. So where's halfway? Where's the halfway point of the circle? Right here. So this is going to be 180 degrees, right? So 0 degrees here, positive 180, or this could also be negative 180, right? So what's half of 180? Because from here to here, that's 180. Well, what's half of 180? 90, and that would be right here, right? This is the halfway point between 0 and 180. So this is going to be 90 degrees, right? So you want to see that every quarter of the circle is 90, right? So 1/4 of the circle is 90. So 0 plus 90 is 90. 90 plus 90 is 180. 180 plus 90 is 270. So 270 degrees. 270 plus 90 is going to be 360, which we already knew, right? So then we just keep repeating the pattern. So 0 to 90, what's half of that? Half of 90 is going to be 45. So the halfway point here in quadrant 1 is going to be 45 degrees. It's quadrant 1, right? So 0 plus 45 is 45. 45 plus 45 is 90. 90 plus 45 is going to be 135 degrees, right? 135 plus 45 is 180. 180 plus 45 is going to be 225. 225 degrees here. 225 plus 45 is 270. We already have that. 270 plus 45 is going to be 315, right? So you just have the angles. Half of 360 is 180. Half of 180 is 90, half of 90 is 45, and then you just add 45 to get all these other angles, right? So quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. That's very important to remember for later on, okay? So we also have 2 more angles in each quadrant. We have 2 angles here, 2 angles here, 2 angles here, and 2 more angles here. Now you got to be careful that this angle here is not halfway between here and here. So it's not half 45. That's not correct. Okay, so you're going to have to remember that basically once you have this angle here, you want to subtract 15 degrees. 45 minus 15 is going to be 30 degrees, right? And then you can either double this angle, just do 30 plus 30 to get 60 here, or you can add 15. 45 plus 15 is 60, right? But basically it's probably going to be better if you just keep adding 30 degrees. So 0 plus 30 is 30, 30 plus 30 is 60, 60 plus 30 is 90, skipping the 45 basically. So 90 plus 30 is 120, so this is 120. But you can also see that 135 minus 15 is 120, right? So we can also do 120 plus 30. That'll give us this. This is a 150. As you can see, 135 plus 15 is also 150, right? So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150 plus 30 is 180. 180 plus 30 is 210 degrees. 210 plus 30 is going to be 240 degrees. 240 plus 30 is 270. 270 plus 30 is 300 degrees. 300 plus 30, of course, is 330 degrees, right? Okay, so that's pretty simple. So that takes care of all the degree angles, right? But actually, what if you need to do radians? In general, you need to do radians as well. So hopefully you know that 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi radians. It's very important to remember, right? So this is 0 radians here. So going this way would be 2 pi radians. So this would also be 2 pi radians or 0 radians. It's the same thing. So what's half of 2 pi? half of 2 pi is pi. Where's half of the circle? Over here. So pi radians is equal to 180 degrees. It's the same thing. So positive pi radians or negative pi radians, I still end up over here. Same location as 180 degrees. So from here to here's pi. What's half of pi? Half of pi is pi over 2. So this is the halfway point between 0 and pi. So this would be pi over 2. So 90 degrees equals pi over 2. Pi over 2 equals 90 degrees. They're the same thing, right? So then you just need to count now. So from here it's 1 pi over 2. 2 pi over 2, which is the same as pi. 2 pi over 2 is the same as pi. So 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. So this is equal to 3 pi over 2. 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, which is the same as 2 pi, right? So then, what's half of pi over 2? So this would be halfway between here and here, halfway between pi over 2. Half of pi over 2 is pi over 4. So that's going to be pi over 4. So 45 degrees is equal to pi over 4. So pi over 2 divided by 2 is pi over 4, or pi over 2 times 1/2 is pi over 4. Okay? So then we count again. So from here to here, 0 plus pi over 4, that's 1 pi over 4. Plus another pi over 4 is 2 pi over 4. So 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. So 2 pi over 4 is the same as pi over 2. It's the same thing. 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, same as pi. 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4. So 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4 is the same as 3 pi over 2. 6 pi over 4. And 7 pi over 4. So 315 degrees is the same as 7 pi over 4. Right? So those radians are pretty easy. But we've got to do the radians for the other angles. Right? So this one, you're going to have to memorize or convert it to pi over 6. 30 degrees is the same as pi over 6. 60 degrees, you can just count. So from here to here is 1 pi over 6. And then 2 pi over 6. 2 pi over 6 is the same as pi over 3. So 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, same as pi over 3. 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, same as pi over 2. 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6. 4 pi over 6 simplifies to 2 pi over 3. So that's 4 pi over 6. And this is going to be 5 pi over 6 if I just keep counting. So 5 pi over 6 is the same as 150 degrees. So 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, same as pi, 6 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6, that's the same as 210 degrees. And then we have 8 pi over 6, which is going to be the same as 4 pi over 3, 8 pi over 6. 9 pi over 6 is the same as 3 pi over 2. 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6 is the same as 5 pi over 3. 10 pi over 6, and then finally 11 pi over 6. I just keep counting, right? So just count 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Obviously notice I'm skipping the angles in the middle of each quadrant, the 45, the 135, 225, 315. When I do that, I'm adding the pi over 6 each time. I skip the middle angles, right? And the last thing we got to do is the coordinates. So we have some of the coordinates here, 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 but we got to do these other coordinates here. The good news is you only need to know these 3 points here, and you automatically know these here. So it's not like you have to memorize these, memorize these, memorize these, memorize these. If you just memorize these coordinates here, these just have the same thing with just different signs, and that's why it's so important to understand these different quadrants, right? In quadrant 1, the x is positive, and so is the y, positive, positive. In the second quadrant, the x is negative, and the y is positive. In the third, it's negative, negative. And in the fourth, it's positive, negative. So if you can remember the coordinates for these 3 points in quadrant 1, all you need to do is change the signs in quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, right? So let's start with 45 degrees, pi over 4, that's generally going to be easiest. So you want to start off by memorizing this is rad 2 over 2, comma, rad 2 over 2. This is helpful because the x and y are the same, so hopefully that'll help you remember, right? I'll go over why we have these coordinates a little later, but you need to know the coordinate here is going to be rad 2 over 2, rad 2 over 2, which is positive, positive, right? Just like we said. So this partner point over here has a partner point in quadrant 1. So the partner for 45 degrees is 135, right? So what are the coordinates here? Well, it's not going to be rad 2 over 2, rad 2 over 2. It's going to be negative rad 2 over 2, rad 2 over 2, right? So negative rad 2 over 2, comma rad 2 over 2, right? But that's easy, right? If I know this point, then I automatically know this point. And guess what? If you know this point, you automatically know this point. So this point you could probably guess is what? Positive rad 2 over 2, comma, negative rad 2 over 2, right? And this partner point would be what? Negative rad 2 over 2, comma, negative rad 2 over 2, right? So if knowing this one point, you already know these other 3 points here, right? All you have to do is change the signs. That's it. Easy, right? So now we got to do the 30 degree or pi over 6 angle, which is a little harder. So you want to remember that it starts off as rad 3 over 2, comma 1/2. Again, I'll go over a little later why we have these coordinates, but right now I just got to memorize it. So this coordinate here is rad 3 over 2, comma 1/2. So whose partner point is with 30 degrees over here? So the partner is going to be which angle? Obviously not 135. It's either 120 or 150. But do you see this 30 degree angle is closest to the x-axis? Which one's closest to the x-axis over here? 150. So the partner angle with 150 or 30 is going to be 150. So if this is positive rad 3 over 2, comma 1/2, then this is going to be negative rad 3 over 2, comma 1/2, right? Negative rad 3 over 2, comma positive 1/2, right? Because they are partner points, right? So who's the partner point with 30 degrees in quadrant 4? Well, who's closest to the x-axis? It's going to be 330 or 11 pi over 6. So the coordinates here are going to be what? Positive rad 3 over 2, negative 1/2, right? So positive rad 3 over 2, negative 1/2. And how about which partner point over here? So 30 degrees closest to the x-axis. That's going to be 210 because he's closest to the x-axis. So this is going to be negative rad 3 over 2, comma negative 1/2, right? So if you know this point, you automatically know this point, and this point, right? So finally, we got the last set, right? So if you can remember this point here, rad 3 over 2, comma 1/2, then all you have to do is switch the x and the y. So this one's going to be 1/2, comma rad 3 over 2. So if you memorize this point, then it's going to be easy for you to know this point, right? And this point is super easy because x and y are the same. So here, this is positive 1/2 rad 3 over 2. So whose partner point over here? It's going to be the 120. So this is going to be negative 1/2 positive rad 3 over 2. Negative 1/2 positive rad 3 over 2. And the 60 degrees is going to correspond to the 240 here. Well, how do I know that? Because 60 is the closest to the y-axis in quadrant 1. Who's the closest, the y-axis in quadrant 3? It's going to be 240. So here, it's going to be negative 1/2 negative rad 3 over 2, right? And the partner point in quadrant 4 is going to be 300 degrees. So this coordinate here is going to be positive 1/2 negative rad 3 over 2, right? So that's why you just need to really memorize these 3 points here, and that means you automatically know these other points here, because all you have to do is just change the signs, right? And this point again is easy, the x and y are the same. You're going to have to memorize 30 degrees pi over 6 is rad 3 over 2, comma 1/2, but you can switch the x and y to get the 60 degree coordinates, right? And yeah, so that would be probably the fastest and easiest way to do the unit circle. Essentially, if you can just draw out quadrant 1, you can pretty much figure out everything else, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, because it's just a pattern, right? If you can follow the pattern, it's going to be pretty easy and pretty quick, right? So that's a summary of the unit circle. Now I'm going to explain why we have these coordinates here, okay? So let's get into that.